because for the sake of time, waiting on Eden and Ryan. I'm assuming that Ryan's going to show up a little bit earlier. Eden's going to show up 10 minutes late today. Let's see. Let's hope. Let's hope for the best. Hopefully, it doesn't come so late though. All right, I'm going to be pasting your homework. Uh, it's just stuff that we learned this week. Here you go. This is your homework. Now, it seems like a lot. I get it. There's a lot of pages. But at the end of the day, we did learn most of it. Well, we actually are going to learn one right now. If you are confused though, and like maybe you tell me, like you're saying that this like homework is a little hard, you can just email me and say like, hey, having trouble with this, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm glad. I'll be more than glad to look over it next week. So don't
Is
worry
that
about it.
3.2?
These are all 3.2. Yes.
Then I can't do it.
We're oh, okay. So your mom doesn't. So your mom has the PDF though.
It's on my mom's phone, and it's really hard to see.
Yeah. Just you don't do it now. Just do it later.
Can you send the PDF so I can put it on my computer?
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Let me do that right now. Let's see if this works. You need the PDFs, right? Okay, so I'm gonna send you both. I'll just send you one for now. It's gonna take a while. It's uploading to the thing. So if you get it, hopefully you do. I'll just download it. Oh, Ryan, let me send you. Here's the homework for this weekend. It's it's actually just like 5 pages, 6 pages, no, 7 pages, but you'll do it. It's all right. We have show and tell, don't worry. Did you get one of them at least, Leon? Yes, no, maybe so.
I don't have any books of it,
Yeah.
so
Did you
I
like
have
I
to
said
wait
something I said something in the chat.
2 days. No, that was the PDF.
No, I mean like right now, like in the Zoom chat, I sent something.
Yeah, you sent the PDF.
Yeah. I'm sending you another one right now. There's two of them. So there's the big book and then there's the workbook. Okay. Well, while you're doing that, is it okay if I can go ahead and do class a little bit? Is that good? All right. Well, I'm just gonna. So the other part that we're gonna learn is homo kata, which is basically saying like it's like a prediction. We're gonna watch Mr. Billy here. He's gonna explain the gist of everything. But yeah, so let's go. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, sure, skip my bad. Share sound. And yeah, let's do this. I'll mute myself and yeah, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Oh, Leon, I'll mute you, by the way.
And the first form that I want to talk about, kata. If you know sound change rules, because you can't pronounce this letter at the bottom, it changes to become this. And then when you have this letter before another syllable, it becomes doubled. So the pronunciation of this word is kata, kata. This word itself is a verb. And when it's used with the form, it can mean to think, but when it's used by itself, it also has a regular meaning in Korean. And this word is used in regular Korean. It means to be the same Or as in, you might just think it as to be like something. Like if you were to say, oh, this thing is similar to the color of the Korean flag, the blue here. It's the same as the Korean flag blue. Or this blue is like this marker color. Or this eraser is like, it's the same as like a rectangle shape, or it's similar to a rectangle, right? When you compare things. And in Korean grammar, when we're going to use this form to mean to think, the meaning is just the same as how it's normally used. So kind of hold on to that idea that this word actually means to be like or to be the same as something. Any adjective, so an adjective made from a descriptive verb, like blue, cold, funny, happy, anything like that, or it can be an adjective that's made from an action verb. We learned in a previous live stream that you can have the verb 가다, to go, and you can make it into an adjective, 가는 사람, and you get the meaning of a person who goes. So this is actually an adjective as well, but it came from an action verb, to go here, and not from a regular descriptive verb. So any sort of adjective comes first, followed by 것, which means a thing, and then 같다. This will have to be conjugated. You're not just going to say adjective called 같다 by itself most of the time. You're going to conjugate this to something. So if you wanted to say, I think it is cold today. I think it is cold today. All we need is the adjective for cold, to be cold. To be cold would be conjugated into an adjective as 추운, 추운. 추운 doesn't mean to be cold. 추운 just means cold something. An adjective in Korean has to come before a noun. So if you wanted to say, I think it's cold, as in I think it's cold weather, 춥다 is to be cold, like weather is cold, then you would just do 추운. Here's your adjective, finish the rest. 추운 것, and then 같다. Conjugate this however you'd like. So in this case, it would be 같아요, or 같아, or 같습니다, or whatever form you want to say, depending on who you're talking to. And that is it. That is how you say, I think. Or this could be a question. 추운 것 같아요? Just raise the end like a question. Now you have a question. Do you think? Do you think it's cold? You can add more to that. So the rest of your sentence, you can say 오늘, today. 오늘 추운 것 같아요? Do you think today is cold? How would you say, I think I like BTS? I'll give you one more reminder. To like is an action verb. It is not a descriptive verb. So when an action verb becomes an adjective, you take the verb stem and you attach 는. BTS 좋아하는 것 같아요. Yep, BTS 안 좋아하는 것 같아요. Go Badu. All right, that's perfectly fine. BTS 좋아하는 것 같아요. 모자이크, nice. This one is wrong. If you're writing Korean, this one is wrong. Do not write 같아 or 같아요. When speaking though, 같아요 is most often pronounced as, at least in Seoul, 같아요, 같아요, like this. So literally, when you say this form to mean I think, what you're actually saying is, it's like it's cold, like 추운 것 같아요. It's like it's cold. It seems cold. Or if you're using it with an action verb, for example, 좋아하는 것 같아요. I think that I like it literally actually means it seems I like it. It's just like I like it. But this is how they commonly will say I think. But literally it's more indirect than that. It's not directly saying these are my thoughts. It is cold or I like them. It's not direct. It's very indirect. So that's what the actual meaning of it is. So 저는, as for me, when it comes to me, Billy. This is the person that's doing something. 한국어를 잘하는, so speaks Korean well. 것 같아요. I think, or literally it seems like. I think Billy speaks Korean well. I think my dog is fat. How would you make this sentence? So as for me, I'm gonna think this. 우리 강아지 or 우리 개, 강아지가 to be fat. So 뚱뚱한, fat as an adjective. So you can say 뚱뚱한 강아지예요. It is a fat puppy. It is a fat dog. 뚱뚱한 사람, a fat person. 뚱뚱한 Billy, fat Billy. Just like that. But in this case, you're saying 뚱뚱한 것 같아요. I think our dog is fat. Pretty easy. I think Billy is a Korean. So what's the adjective of is? Well, is comes from 이다, to be. Normally like 입니다, 이에요, 예요, right? So we're gonna have to conjugate this to become an adjective. So how would you say, I think Billy is a Korean? I'm not. 빌리가, normally never write a person's name in red, but I don't care. I don't have another marker that works as well as this right now. 한국 사람, 인. So this 이다, to be, becomes 인 as an adjective. And then we just finish the rest, called 같아요. 빌리가 한국 사람인 것 같아요. I think Billy is a Korean. And that is part comes from in, which is from to be as an adjective. If you're feeling like, oh, I really don't get it, like, I don't get it, how can I say I think? It still doesn't click. It's adjectives. That's what you need to focus on, is how do you conjugate an adjective? This next way to say I think is, in my opinion, a little bit harder. And in order to do it, you need to know something called plain form. In order to say you think something with this form, which also means I think, you need to know the plain form. Now, but we're not going to be doing a full review of the plain form because it could take a while to learn it. But there's an exception to this, which I'll talk about. There's one exception to this, and that is the verb ida, to be. Ida in the plain form is just ida because it's a descriptive verb. However, this is an exception. When you have ida and you combine it with go in this form, it becomes 이라고. And as well as for this, 아니라고. So if you wanted to say, I think Billy is a Korean, for saying, I think Billy is a Korean. Well, now we have this new form, which directly just means, I think. These are my thoughts, right? Before we learned about 같다, 같아요, we learned that that actually literally means it seems. So it's a little more indirect. It's not necessarily saying your thoughts as much as it's saying, well, it seems that way to me. So indirectly, I think that. This form, however, is not. This form, 생각하다, literally means a thought, to think. So the regular word for a thought is 생각. 저는 좋은 생각이 있어요. I have a good thought. And that's the word that they use for saying idea. So it's more direct, a more direct way of saying, this is exactly what I think. Now we have this form, which is directly saying you think something. So instead of saying 사람인, instead of using in, since it's not an adjective, we need the plain form. So the plain form of to be is 이다, like I said. But when it combines with this form, 고, 생각하다, it becomes 이라고 after a consonant or 라고 after a vowel. So in this case, 사람 ends in a consonant, so we're going to get 이라고 and then 생각해요. So 빌리가 한국 사람이라고 생각해요 directly means I think that Billy is Korean. You can conjugate 생각하다 however you'd like. So it can be I thought. 빌리가 한국 사람이라고 생각했어요. I thought Billy was a Korean. You can say that too. You can say 생각했어요 with this form. But called 같다, that other form that we learned first, that one has some limitations, and we'll talk about that next. How would you say, I think I like, Ahimang doesn't like when I use BTS. So let's change that. Let's do TBS. They're the ones that have Conan O'Brien on. So I think I like TBS. TBS를 좋아한다고 생각해요. 저는 TBS를 좋아한다고 생각해요. Nice. How would you say this sentence? 저는 지민이 영어 잘한다고 생각해요. Nice, Ben-song. 저는 지민이 영어를 잘한다고 생각해요. Carmenas, nice. 지민이 영어를 잘한다고 생각해요. 지민이 영어를 잘한다고 생각해요. There's something that I should mention about when you say I don't think, or you don't think. In English, we typically say I don't think that he is an American. I don't think he speaks English well, right? We say I don't think. Korean, it's reversed. Koreans typically only say they do think a certain way. In Korean, it's the reverse. They typically say, I think something is a negative. So instead of saying 미국 사람인, they would say 미국 사람 아닌, using the verb 아니다, to not be. So what Koreans would typically say is, I do think that something is not. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's typically how they do it. Whereas you won't be wrong, you'll be perfectly fine, and there are situations when you will want to say 이라고 생각하지 않아요, right? To flip it, to say I don't think that he's an American, but the only times that you do that are when you want to emphasize. If you wanted to emphasize, like, I really do not think a certain way, then you can do that. Then you can say 미국 사람인 것 같지 않아요, or 미국 사람이라고 생각하지 않아요. You can reverse it if you want to emphasize I do not think a certain way. But I've only talked about present tense before. That's because both of these forms in present tense have the same meaning. If you're going to use past tense, specifically if you want to make this verb like I thought, or future tense, I will think, or I didn't, past tense, right? I will not, I did or I didn't. Something with past or future tense, do not use this form. Do not make these into the future tense or the past tense. You won't be wrong. It'll sound awkward though. Typically, 같다, to think, is only used in the present tense. 같아, 같아요, 같습니다, 같은데. If you want to say that you previously thought, and this is most common with past tense, use 생각하다. One more difference is that 생각하다 is your direct thought. 제 생각에는 literally means in my thoughts. Translating naturally, you can say in my opinion. So, in my opinion, and then you can say whatever it is that you think. Then you can say, 빌리가 한국 사람이 아닌 것 같아요. I don't think Billy's a Korean. You can start your sentence with this too. 제 생각에는, because 생각, like I said, is actually the literal word for a thought. It's your actual thoughts. So this literally means in my thoughts, in my head right now, this is what I'm thinking. And then you can finish your sentence with whatever it is you're thinking. You can make it a I think sentence, or you can just make it a statement. 빌리가 한국 사람이에요. 지민이가 영어를 잘해요. You can just straight up say, Jimin speaks English well, after you've said this thought, because now you're saying, in my thoughts, Jimin speaks English well. And that's fine to say too, and you haven't used these forms at all. This is just another alternative. If you really want to say I think and you can't remember this grammar and you don't want to deal with it, if you have to pick one of these forms to focus on, I think this one's more commonly used in regular conversation. It's more useful for talking with your friends. It's more commonly used overall. I know I've only briefly covered both of these forms, but that's why I have a quiz for today.
Okay. Comment section in the chat. All right. Let me repaste the homework again for Eden. So now you guys don't have to tell me that I didn't send in the homework. Yes, I did. Send it in the chat. I will send it to your parents. Okay, so just a quick review. Momo kata is saying like a prediction, really, and like you think X, Y, Z, basically. And also he covered stuff like Momo 생각한다, like it's kind of like also thinking. So let's see if okay, so let me just show this to you. So 뭐뭐 올 것 같아요 like doesn't like mean like past, present, or future. The way you conjugate it is going to be different. Okay, so if you look at it right here, first it says the baby slept well last night. Slept well. Slept is a past tense verb. So 아기가 어젯밤에 잘 잔 것 같아요. So in this case, we would use one with the un formula in order to make it past tense. The verb 것 같아요 is the same thing, but we're gonna fix up we're gonna conjugate it so that it's past tense. So 잔 것 같아요. Remember, it's 자다. 자다 is the base verb. Second sentence, the baby is sleeping well now. Now it's present tense, right? So 아기가 지금 잘 잔 것 같아요. 자는 것 같아요. So in that case, remember you would do 자는. This is where you put your verb, and you would say 자는 것 같아요. All right. And then number 3, the baby will sleep well tonight. 아기가 내일 잘 것 같아요. So you see, even though it's just tada, you can conjugate it 3 separate ways depending on the verb tense that you want it. So you can say 잔 것 같아요, 지금 자는 것 같아요, 내일 잘 것 같아요. So it's a prediction, but you can say you predict like it was a predicted past, predicted present, and a predicted future. And these are just some other examples. So the ones with the arrows in red are the irregular conjugation. These are like the irregular verbs that you see, like to be, is, was, were. Those are irregular conjugations, basically. Especially in Spanish too. Ir, estar, those are like, the irregular verbs that get conjugated weirdly, right? So, the ones just regular though, these are just the regular conjugations. 가다, 간 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. 가는 것 같아요. 갔던 것 같아요. 올, 오는, 왔던. So these you just have to memorize off the bat. there's really no other way for me to like tell you. Oh, sorry if you guys hear that. I think that's just the car. But anyways, so here like 쉬웠던, 쉬운, 쉬울, 추웠던, 추운, 추울. So these are just other examples for the slides. Instead of me just going through every one, I want you guys to just look over the slides as well. I'm not gonna like give you a homework assignment on it, but definitely I'm going to give you like I'm just gonna paste the slides in the chat. No, not in the chat. I'll give this to your parents so that you guys can have access to it, and then you can look over for reference. So that'll help you for your homework. Okay, this is like your homework guide / learning activity because it's kind of hard for me to go through every single one with you, and also since we're running out of time tonight. So you do have a pretty hefty amount of homework this weekend. It's 7 pages of work. However, I'm gonna give you the slides. You have the what's his face? You have the PDFs. You have the slides. You have the books. Um, the really that's all the resources I can give you. So if you still need any more help, if you still have questions, don't hesitate. Email me, shoot me a text. I'll be there. All right. So that's will conclude our Thursday's class. I'll figure out the show and tell stuff, you know. But until then, have a great weekend. Do your homework by Monday night. And yeah, I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good one.
Bye.
See ya.